Hello.
Hello. Hey.
Hi. How are
Hey,
you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very good.
Good. Well, thanks. I'm Travis.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you virtually as well. How are you doing in this crazy time right now?
Look, I can't complain. I'm very lucky right now, and I also feel like anybody with a job that is dependent on something like the film industry knows what it's like to be unemployed. So I feel like I've been
Yeah,
trained for this my whole life. Um but yeah, I can't complain.
that's great. Well, I'm glad you took a few minutes to talk with me about Shirley. I saw it. I
Pleasure.
saw it. I saw it at Sundance, and I
I
didn't
didn't
know
even see it at Sundance. I was stuck in Canada. I couldn't enter because of a visa
really
issue. So I'm jealous of anybody who got to see it at Sundance.
why were you stuck in Canada.
I was shooting there at the time,
Uh,
and essentially had an expired visa, which I thought would be really easy to get very
yeah.
quickly for the US, and then it ended up taking months and months. So I couldn't enter I couldn't enter the US for a while. But it's all good
Oh,
now.
well, I'm sure you'll have plenty of opportunity to go back there again. So
Yeah.
well, I saw it, and I didn't honestly. I had very little idea of what the movie was. I went in there saying, "All right, this will be a Shirley Jackson biopic, and that'll be fun. I'll watch that, and it'll be great." And
It's
it's not a biopic. It's not a
a little
biopic.
different. Yeah, a
It's,
little bit different.
it's something completely different. Is that one of the things that attracted you to it? Is that just not a traditional biopic? It's something completely different than that.
Yeah, I think so. I think that, biopics quite often um, are limited by their necessity to tell like a really big story or the whole story of a person from start to finish in a really short amount of time. And what I really liked about this one, and this is, thanks to the kind of imagination of Susan Scarf Merrill, who wrote the book that this movie is loosely based on, is that it imagines a certain period of time that Shirley was living through, and kind of tells it through the lens of people that come to live with her and meet her. Um, and I really liked that take on it because, you know, the, we don't know that much about Shirley Jackson. I mean, she
Yeah.
was a very private person and a very, uh, isolated person. Um, and so it's, using the liberties of fiction to kind of piece together what actually she would have been like and what living with her would have been like is something that definitely drew me to it. And then also, I'd seen some of Josephine Decker's previous work, and I could not imagine, her just making a straight biopic.
Right.
And so I was really fascinated and intrigued by the kind of prospectively what she would be doing with the film. And so that was also definitely a big um, kind of big flashing light saying, like, look at this a little more.
Yeah. Was were you familiar with Shirley's work, her books before taking on the film?
I think that everybody that I know or that I've talked to about Shirley Jackson has at some point during their school life
Mm.
read the lottery for a school assignment. And I remember doing that. I remember sitting down at, the little exam desks and
Yeah.
opening the page, and we had to read the lottery, and then we had to answer questions, and it was a kind of a comprehension test. And I think that that is such a testament to her writing and to how complex it is, and how nuanced and layered it is, because there are still things to discover and unpack, and what she was writing then through this metaphor about society is still very applicable today. And so, in that way I was familiar with her. Yeah.
Your character Rose is also very interesting as well because it's a character that could have been very one note, just sort of just straight admiration of this writer, but there's something deeper to it. There is this, I don't know, sort of like this psychosexual energy between her and
Mm,
Shirley, at least that I was sensing when I was watching it.
yeah, yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about the character of Rose and what drew you to her and kind of how you got into the mode of playing her, because it's a role that you have to take a lot from Elisabeth Moss. You have to take a lot from her.
Yeah.
Talk to me a
Yeah.
little bit about that.
Which was easy to do. I mean, there, as you mentioned, there is this there is this kind of base layer of admiration. You
Mm-hmm.
know, Rose is aware of who Shirley is when she goes to live with her. She, you know, she reads the lottery on the train, and she's enamored with it. And so, you know, there was like a little link to me and Lizzie there as well, where I was like, oh my fucking God, I'm going to work with Elisabeth Moss, you know, and that part of the dynamic was really easy to get into, obviously, because it, you know, it felt quite real. But you're right, there are processes that happen in the movie where, you know, some of Shirley's ideologies and ways of being and creative powers and energies, and, you know, this kind of strangely esoteric connection that they have, all of this kind of starts to rub off on Rose. It starts to transfer onto her, and Rose ends up, I think, kind of, you know, becoming a version of Shirley by the end of the movie, or at least growing into something more alike to her. So yeah, it doesn't just end at admiration. It definitely goes into obsession and almost becoming.
You started in another movie that I really liked from a couple of years ago that I also saw at Sundance, which was Assassination Nation.
Oh yeah, cool.
I love that movie to death.
Oh, I'm glad. It's a fun one.
And you know, I saw some, you know, there's some similarities here. You know, both movies really speak to that connection women have together, and how some of their, because I think I found the women in Assassination Nation to also be very creative in the way they would express themselves. Do you find yourself kind of drawn to these movies that really highlight these bonds between women and how they are expressed in different ways?
I mean, I guess so. I haven't really thought about it, but I do think that there is I guess there's a pattern emerging in my work.
That's a good pattern. That's a great pattern.
No, it is, and I think, you know, I'm really lucky to have been given the opportunity and to exist in a time where that material for women that is analyzing relationships between women is really ripe right now. And yeah, I definitely think that it's a topic that is so universal and that has, you know, existed in folklore and mythology and trope and archetype since the dawn of storytelling, you know, female relationships and you know, like the female experience. And it is so criminally undertold. So you know, yeah, I think that is something that's important to me, because I know it's how I digest my life. You know, I know it's, you know, my kind of frame, my perspective into life is from my position and knowing women and knowing how complex those relationships. And, you know, what I really love about Shirley and Assassination Nation, if we're, you know, mentioning that, is that it doesn't mystify it, and it doesn't exploit it. It actually shows, you know, it allows there to be an ugliness in female relationships, as opposed to like a kind of fetishistic perfection of female relationships. And that's something that's really important, is to kind of give these stories the complexity that they deserve.
That's a fantastic answer, and I thank you. I think it's a perfect way to wrap this up.
Great.
Thanks a lot, Odessa. This is thank you for taking a few minutes with me. I really appreciate it. And I love the movie, and you did a great job in it. So thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you talking to me.
All right, stay safe. Thank you.
Have a great one.
All right, bye.